Welcome back to 1010's podcast. My name is, of course, Michael Beck with Adam Nielsen and Robbie Bierhout. And, of course, we have a guest this week. His name is Matt Covert from RacersHQ. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So as I mentioned, Matt is, I guess he's the owner, proprietor, lead for RacersHQ, which is a very interesting, you're kind of a conglomerate of several different things. You've got a website, you've got a podcast, you've obviously got all your social media pages.
YouTube channel.
Tell us a little bit about your company or your brand, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks. I'll tell you what, I never thought that I would have started, this company or the website or anything like that. And the whole thing started because the market where I'm originally from, I started my professional driving career as a stunt driver for film and television. And we can talk about that later if you guys want to. But the reason I moved into kind of internet business is because the market was just getting so flooded with new drivers who could, kind of take up some of the, lower paying, easier jobs to get. So the money started to go away. And so I said, I'd been hearing about online business. Everyone kind of thinks it's kind of scammy or whatever, but I learned a lot about it, and it was really interesting. And it hit me all of a sudden one day that, there's no website, for people to go and learn about vehicle dynamics, racing techniques, from inside and outside the car, learning about tuning and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, I wish I had a website like this 10 years ago. And that's kind of how it started, and it's grown very quickly. There is a podcast now, the RacersHQ podcast, which is really awesome. That's so easy for me. I'm just so opinionated in the automotive world. So to just get in front of a mic and keep talking is a lot of fun for me. So we're just kind of expanding as things go, and we've got a great racing program going, which is also expanding next year. So I'm so glad I went and did this. It's the best thing I've ever done. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I want to jump back to the beginning because your history is really interesting to me, I guess. You started out with stunt driving, and I'm just kind of curious to learn more about that and how you got into it, what that industry was like, and then, as you said, you've kind of made an exit from that. So I just kind of want to understand the whole timeline of that.
Sure, yeah. I had been accepted to go to, I don't know if you guys have heard of the UTI campus is it North Carolina? They teach kids how to build NASCAR engines and stuff. I almost went and did that. But I had always been a driving fan and, watching Dukes of Hazzard and stuff. So I said, before I go to this college, I'm going to go to a stunt driving school in Wall, New Jersey, which I did. And after the first day, I was like, nope, not going to college. I want to be a performance driver, and I'm going to do it. So that was my that was my sudden decision to become a performance driver. So I went about it very smart. Of course, I went to Wall, New Jersey, and went to it was called the Drivers East High Performance Driving School. And the instructors there are Mike Burke, Roy Farfel, and Kevin Rogers. And these are the guys at the top of the industry. They're doing Daredevil now. They had just done Bourne Ultimatum and, Spider-Man and Indiana Jones and Blacklist. And these are the guys, A-listers, on the New York side of the country. They're awesome. I also made my way out to Seattle. I trained there at the International Stunt School under Steve Buckley. And that was one of my crowning moments. He was one of the original drivers on the Dukes of Hazzard TV show, so that was awesome to meet him.
Oh, was he really? That's cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, that's like one of my biggest accolades. I always get good responses from that. And so I was very smart when I went home. I knew that, there was a lot of competition at these schools, and I knew that something that would separate me was, being able to, upkeep my skills and learn new things. So one of the first things I did was I went out and I made a deal with a local business owner to use his commercial private parking lot as a motorsport proving ground for myself, so I could learn all these really new things. And as time went on, I became one of the better drivers in the Northeast. Everyone, that's what separated me from everyone else, was just the practice space. It's not that I have more like natural talent or anything. I just was able to go out and keep the rust off me, and other people weren't able to do that. So over the course of the next few years, I did a lot of independent stuff. I never made it, to the Hollywood level. I was never in the Screen Actors Guild, but I did pretty well on the independent level, Boston mostly. And, like I said earlier, a couple more stunt driving schools moved into the East Coast area, Northeast area, and they just started cranking out graduates, and it saturated the market. So now all of a sudden you had all these, new drivers who could, charge less money to do the same thing. And, a $300 an hour consulting gig turned into $100 a day, gig, 3 or 4 states over. It just wasn't worth it anymore. And that's kind of the brief explanation of how I, came and went out of the stunt industry. I was also able to touch down in the live entertainment industry with the Imperial Stunt Drivers very briefly. They're one of those old school Joey Chitwood type shows. They tour the fairs and they wreck the cars and they jump the cars and all that really fun stuff. So
that sounds like our thing.
Yeah,
sure.
It was a really cool experience. I'm glad that my path took me through there. So making the transition from stunt driving into racing is actually hilarious. I never thought it would go this way. Here I am, professional stunt driver in the Northeast, whatever. I go to my first autocross in where was it? It was at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And I had at the time, I had a really cool car. I had a 97 Mazda Miata M Edition. Those were the really cool ones with the the upgraded strut bar and the Torsen diff and all those. So I showed up there and I thought I was going to do so well. Little did I know, stunt driving and racing are two completely opposite things. There's very little that is the same between them. So, for example, stunt driving it's very big and flashy and dynamic. And to get the car to do the things you want, you have to have radical weight transfers, and it's the opposite in racing. You want to be smooth and composed and act a little bit slower so your car goes faster. So making the transition might have even been a little trickier for me than someone who was new to racing. But I think I've got there. Things are going really well. I'm racing a 2013 Subaru BRZ right now, primarily with the Sports Car Club of New Hampshire. I'm leading the point series there. It's all going very well. It's been a really fun transition for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your BRZ. I know you've had some guests on your show that talk about the differences between the BRZ and the FRS. And in the process of that, I think you've made some modifications to your car. It's no longer stock.
It is still technically in the street class. It's currently in C Street per the SCCA rules, and I love street class. It keeps the cost down, and it lets the best drivers rise to the top, and I'm a huge advocate of that. It does have some modifications. It's pretty much maxed out to the street rules right now, so I started out with a nice set of tires. That's the number one way to go. The entire point of suspension and everything else on the car is to maximize your contact patch. And if you don't have, a good set of tires that can create high amounts of traction, it's all gone to waste. Like I've seen, and I've made that mistake in the past too. I wanted a fast car, so for some reason I put, brakes on it thinking that would help for some reason or another. and so, you see all these guys, they've got, thousands of dollars in the suspension, but they're on street tires. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Come on. So tires first. That's my little lesson there.
What'd you put on your car for tires?
I was a huge fan of the Dunlop Dureza Z2 Star Specs. I love them. They have really awesome auditory response. You can hear what's going on with the tire as you're changing your slip angles across the surface. It's a great tire. I predicted that it would still be better than the RE71R. I am still eating crow about that. It is obviously not as good, and I'm looking forward to changing next season.
Have you run an RS3 ever?
No, I've heard that that's really one of the other good ones out there.
I feel like that's a good budget tire. I think it's a little cheaper than the Dureza, probably a lot cheaper than the Bridgestone. But I think it's if you're a budget autocrosser, which a lot of people are, since it is such a a low cost of entry motorsport. I think the RS3 from Hankook is a good option for a lot of people. You get I don't know, I can't say a number for sure, but like 90% of the performance that you're going to get out of a more expensive tire, and you get a really good tread life out of it as well. So just curious if you'd run that one as well, because I don't know if we know anybody that's run the RS3, the Dureza, and the Bridgestone.
All three of them?
Yeah.
No, I know some people who have run two of the three, a combination of the two.
Yeah.
But not all three off the top of my head, no.
So anyway, that's why I asked.
Well, I connect with a lot of people on Instagram, and I'm always, we're always talking about, hey, what's working for you? What tires you want? All this stuff. And I only know one guy who's been on all three, and it's the Bridgestone RE71R hands down. He says there's no comparison. He had him on the same car with the same setup, And I mean, he was obviously faster with the Bridgestone, which is weird because you can't hear anything that's happening with the Bridgestone. I drove them, and it was Bill Brundage who was on my podcast who had the FRS, and he had the RE71Rs, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are amazing because I got to drive his car for a lap. They're so awesome.
That's interesting. That's a quite a bit more expensive tire, though, I think. Isn't it like $80 or $100 more a tire than the RS3? Maybe not the Dureza, but...
Yeah, it actually all depends on the size because, Bill Brundage, I mean, he's so funny. He couldn't even care less that he's one of the fastest guys around. It's so funny. He said he bought the set that he has just because they were taller than you would normally want for autocrossing, and they were like $50 each cheaper that way. Yeah, and they actually ended up being way faster than everyone else's.
Changed his gearing a little bit, probably. Effectively.
Yeah, he said he loves the gearing bump. I mean, the top of second is a weird place for the BRZ and the FRS and autocross. So somehow, some reason, he found a way to do it by accident. Leave it to him,
Yeah. So I interrupted you with our tire nonsense, but what else have you done to your car?
Oh, sure. No, that's okay. After the tires, I went, before I made any other changes, I knew I wanted the grip. After that, I started taking tire temperatures after every single run. I took 12 tire temperatures in strategic places. And if you do that, you can kind of see what's happening with the tires, not only from a tire pressure point of view, because, the different shapes will give you various temperature readings if you have, too high a pressure or too low a pressure. But you can also see what the car is doing front to back. So in my case, I saw and felt that the car was understeering, because of one, I felt it, and two, the front tire temperatures were always hotter than the rear. So I knew the front end were doing more work, and I wanted to balance that out. So I put a rear sway bar on the car, and that seemed to help a lot. And the temperatures got closer together, front to back. The car was more manageable. And I just kept, increasing and increasing because it was an adjustable bar. I tightened it up all the way, and I thought there was a little more there. So I went to a stiffer bar, and that was too much, so we backed it down. The next step I took was a performance set of shocks. You're not allowed to change the springs in street class, but I went right to the Bilsteins. I love Bilsteins. They're bulletproof. Everyone loves the Conies, but it's easy to blow out a Coney, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I bought the Bilsteins, put them in, and it ruined everything. The car was undrivable at that point. So I went back and kind of, rethought what I was doing. I had Bill drive it. Bill was like, oh, yeah, put a giant front sway bar on it. And I was like, okay, he's super fast. And it brought the car right into the sweet spot. So that's pretty much all I've got going in it right now. I mean, there's not a lot of mods, but it's winning at the local level. It's podium at the regional. So I'm pretty sure we get those Bridgestones next season, and it'll be competitive on the regional level. And I'm really excited about that.
Are you going to do any regional competition this year?
Well, I've done a little bit. Of course, I like to have a primary club so I can score points there the whole time. But
sure.
Yeah, I've been testing at the regional level a lot, and I've been on the podium. I've been within. I think I was down to. I think we missed the podium once by like 8 thousandths one time. It's getting close.
Yeah.
And but like I said, between the tires and me increasing my skill as a driver, I think it'll be a pretty good shot next year. Along with that, the SCCA is talking about reclassing the BRZ from C Street to D Street. So I'm going to get a little PAX bump as well. And at the regional level, I do a lot of research about the other guys down there. And at the regional level, there aren't a lot of talented D Street guys. So I think there's a pretty good shot. And I'm just charged and head into the next year. I got my fingers crossed. I'm really hoping. Alongside that, I'm probably going to get into a shifter kart next year. That's the tentative plan right now.
You piqued Adam's interest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Actually, it's funny. This weekend I'm in Pennsylvania at a private practice session to do some BRZ testing, and then the following Tuesday I worked a deal with DRT Racing in New Hampshire. We're going to go over to the F1 outdoors, whatever it's called, F1 Boston kart track out there, and they've got a couple semi-pro shifter kart racers that I'm going to hang out with for the day to kind of cut my teeth and then see if I can hang anywhere near them. So it should be a really fun day. I'm looking forward to that too.
Why shifter kart?
Well, I am all about the budget autocross, the budget grassroots racing, and I wholeheartedly believe that anyone can end up being a professional driver. Okay, I mean, is easy? No, because if it was, everyone would do it. So for me, I think autocross is probably the first step. It's the best place to go and learn vehicle dynamics and how to push your car to the limit. You push it too far, you hit cones, you're in the middle of a parking lot going 6 different directions, you hit nothing. It's perfect for what you're doing.
Right.
I think the next step, once you've got that grasp, is learning how to play nice with others on a closed course. So that's kind of what karting is going to do for me. It's really not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. I know that 5-6 grand is a stretch for some people, but I mean, shoot, that's only like a quarter of the price of some of the cars that people drive. So I think it's pretty attainable. Shifter kart racing makes a lot of sense for my racing team personally, and I think for the website too, because I mean, the website is all about grassroots racing. So I think that'll make some great content for the followers as well to make that jump from autocross to shifter kart racing.
I don't know how many people know about shifter karts. You know what I mean?
I think it's a huge bummer. It's extremely popular in the UK, and I'm lucky in the Northeast. The racing scene here is really good. We have a lot of racing series, for autocross and as well as shifter karts. And, shifter karts go up to the national level. So I don't know how long that's going to be. Ultimately, I want to get into a T4 road racer and end up in the Pirelli World Challenge. Who doesn't want that? So
right,
we'll see.
absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's it looking like? Are you going to be going to nationals for SCCA anytime soon, or is that even on your radar this year, or what's that look like?
It was briefly a blip on my radar earlier this year. I think it was what was it? It wasn't the Pro Solo Series. It was the other one. I can't remember which one it was. One of the national series was rolling through to DC, which is about 9 hours away from me, and I almost made the jump. But just before that, I broke some wheel studs, and I was like, I don't know if I can get these fixed in time, so I was out. And I'm kind of glad I didn't go anyway. I really don't want to go to nationals until I can just show up and crush it, and I'm definitely not there yet.
That is the difficult part about nationals. I think a lot of people show up there thinking that they're going to do reasonably well and just get absolutely smoked. I mean, those guys are a completely different level of fast.
Yeah, you realize you're a small fish in a very large pond very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I truly don't understand why national autocross isn't a big deal. The level of talent at the national level is off the charts. I mean, I have no business going to nationals yet, but the guys who are there, they are some of the best drivers in the country, no doubt about it.
Well, we have guys in our region that just crush it. I mean, they'll get FTD every single weekend, and then they go to nationals and they'll get like 8th, 10th in their class, and the guy in first is like 2 seconds faster. It's crazy. That's an insane gap when you're talking about a guy who's crushing, everybody in the state when we have a meet. So
I completely agree. 2 seconds is 2 eternities.
Yeah, it might as well be when it comes to autocross. It's a huge margin. So, yeah, I can appreciate where you're coming from. It's nationals is daunting, and it's especially you being out on the coast, is probably not worth dragging yourself all the way over here to the Midwest to come hang out in Omaha.
The lower street classes, street and street touring, they seem to be a lot more competitive, a lot harder to win than some of the higher prepared classes, just because of sheer numbers.
You just get so many people that want to get into a street
80
class.
People in some of the ST classes and stuff like that. There's just a lot of people. It's very hard to rise to the top in that. Whereas, where my car is, E-prepared.
It's not too many E-prepared cars.
There's been times at national events that aren't like Pro Solo events where there's not enough cars for them to allow it to even be a class.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Just not enough people show up with it.
I suppose.
I think that's a big thing for Matt more than us.
Right. Yeah. He's got...
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me, too, because, I mean, there's 2 types to approach racing. The first one is to throw money at the car, and that's why there are so many, modified cars. Modifying cars is awesome. Who doesn't want to do that?
Right, it's a lot of fun.
Class guys, exactly. The street class guys, though, they're more like me. They're just like, I want to be the best driver ever, and that's what they focus on. And when you put all those people in the same arena, with very similar cars, it's like spec racing, or I can't believe the IROC series folded back in the 90s. That was too bad, but the best drivers in the same car, I mean, that's like the ultimate challenge for me, and I think those guys like that too.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. That's an interesting part of autocross, for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, to go to your point of you can't believe that there's not more people interested in autocross, your website really plays to the racers in the autocross scene. You've got a lot of really great information on there about different facets and things that autocrossers can work on to improve their racing skill. But the really interesting thing about your site that has probably brought you a lot of notoriety is the fact that you're actually offering some sponsorship programs for autocross. And I don't know, you have to tell me. I don't know if you're still doing that for 2016 or not. But I see your post on your Facebook page. I mean, tell us more about that program. It's really interesting, and it seems to be different than what most people are doing.
Yeah, that's probably the most exciting thing about what's going on with the website right now is the sponsorship program, and I'm totally open about it. It does two things for me. One, I love the thought of supporting grassroots racing. Nobody's doing it. I love the idea of helping some of the grassroots guys go faster with some money, and that's what my sponsorship program is. It's money for autocross. I'm going to pay you money to drive on my team. It's not discounts, it's not products, it's not credits, it's actual money. And I'm always looking, and that's one of the things on the application is, do you know of anyone else doing this? Because I want to go out and find those companies and beat them. And so far, I haven't found any. The other thing it does for me, it's a great marketing strategy for me as well. So not only am I helping people, but it's created a lot of buzz in the industry, which sends traffic to the site, which is really cool. So yeah, I am doing it again for 2017. The program is open right now. It's probably going to close, and I'm not committing to this because I'm not sure yet, but it's probably going to close in November sometime. So I don't know when this episode is going to air, but if you have a chance and you're listening to this and you're an autocrosser, you're a grassroots guy, and you need tires, you need entry fees, you need fuel fees, you go to my website, you can apply right to the sponsorship, and you can get there by just going to racershq.com/sponsorship. I'm so excited about it. It's like I said, it's probably the best thing about the website right now.
So what are you offering? I mean, you said you're offering cash, but what are you actually looking to offer people? I know it depends on who applies and some other circumstances, but what are we talking about from a dollar figure?
Yeah, the whole process is pretty complicated, but as far as dollars go, I'm offering $300 cash, and I'm going to put vinyls on the car too. So I mean, you get $300 plus the vinyls, which I will pay for. And like I said, having my logo on the side of grassroots racing is just so exciting for me. And I did it last year. I sponsored a guy in I had two guys. One was in St. Louis region, and one was Indianapolis. And I've made a lot of changes this year. I learned a lot last year from offering the sponsorships and working with them. And the program's a little bit different this year, but you go to the website, and apply, and you'll instantly get an email for all the details that go along with that. So I'm and you know what, if you guys ever, because I know you guys are in the industry, you guys are influencers in the industry now, if you ever hear of any other company doing something like that, I want you to reach out to me and tell me, because I have to check it out. I have to know about it.
So do you get questions from people asking you, why are you offering up money for autocross?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I took a couple days off to go do a thing a little while ago, and I came back and I had like 65 emails, and I was like, oh no. And that happens to me all the time, and which is awesome because I love meeting these new people. I love when people reach out. That was something I wanted to accomplish right from the beginning, is I wanted to network and communicate with people. And I was like, I need to come up with a way so people will reach out to me. And the sponsorship program has helped do that a lot. So I get to meet a lot of people. I love responding to each individual email. And, if you're listening to this and you have some questions about what you've got going on, or vehicle classing, or whatever else it is that you can think of, shoot me an email or get me through the site or the Facebook page, email directly, matt@racershq.com. I'd love to meet you.
So you're okay with talking to people about just random classing or random, asking questions about tires or any pointers and stuff like that? I mean, is that stuff you want to hear from people about?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, this is my whole life. I can't get enough of this stuff. So when I look into my email inbox and see 65 emails, the initial thought is, oh, man, that looks like a lot of work. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I just get to talk about racing for a month longer, So it's really not that big a deal.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, I'm still able to, to touch base with everyone who reaches out to me. As it gets bigger, that's probably gonna get a little bit less. I will always do as much as I can to communicate with you on a one-to-one level. So if you have a question that I answer a lot, sometimes I'll just point you to a resource and let me, like a video or a blog post or something. Then I'll say, hey, let me know what you think. I want to keep talking about this. So I'm trying to save myself as much time as possible while helping each individual the most I can. So it's getting tricky, but it's still doable.
So are you like a one-man operation? 'Cause, I mean, you mentioned you had a team. So is it your website and then you have like racers, or is it like a group of you guys doing this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I use the word team very loosely. I basically am doing absolutely everything myself. When I was first getting into business, I spent a lot of time learning about, how to survive on the internet. I design the site myself. I do all the back end stuff. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with how much back end stuff there is to do. Just the podcast alone is a huge amount of effort. So right now it's just me doing all the website business stuff. As far as other team goes, whoever I'm sponsoring, I'm always talking to them. Hey, good luck this weekend. Is there anything I can do to help you out? How did this go? Did you try this? I love talking to them and working with them as much as possible. And I haven't gone racing without my dad in a long time. I've always said and always maintained that racing should be a family business. The Earnhardts did it, the Pettys did it, the Unzers did it. It's just a really cool thing to be doing. So my dad goes all the time racing with me and helps me out a lot. So it eases the burden of a data analysis between runs and tire pressure. So he's a huge help to me at the track.
Yeah, that's how I grew up too. My family, I grew up drag racing, but my family
cool.
was always. I mean, that's what we did,
Yeah, it's
most
a family
families
thing.
go to Disneyland. We went to Harlem Park, Topeka for a national event. I mean, that was just kind of
There
our
was
thing.
no
And
money left for traditional vacations.
No.
Go and see a Mount Rushmore. None of that stuff. No, it's all gone into racing.
Yeah, and I started driving junior dragsters when I was 8 or 9 years old, and did that for quite a while, and I transitioned out of drag racing here in the last couple of years, but it's still something I enjoy, and my dad has been kind of slowly moving towards building a car to come and race with me rather than doing the drag racing thing.
Is that what he's going to do with his Trans Am? You think?
Yeah, he keeps like,
Threatening that he might.
Hotchkiss makes this stuff, or Ride Tech makes that for my car, and I'm like, just do it, Dad. Just buy that stuff. You want to get in my car and take it for a spin once at an event just to see how you like it? I mean, I know he's going to love it.
Well, that's the thing about autocross. I don't think most people understand how intense it is. I don't want to say violent, but I mean, you put people in an autocross car that have never been out on a track before, and you toss them around, even in just second gear, they're going to get out and go, holy crap, I didn't realize that there was that many G-forces going on, or, that much transfer of energy. So, and it goes back to what you were saying, Matt. I mean, there's a lot of talent in autocross, that's for sure. Nobody here is going to argue with that. So I think, any more notoriety, visibility you can bring to the sport is going to help. And spectators is a hard thing that we have with autocross. I mean, we get them at some of our events, but like when we do it at Adventureland, which is it's basically like the parking lot outside of a big, like, what would you call it? Like a Six Flags. It's like an amusement park. So we get a lot of just probably random people that are driving by going, oh, there's a bunch of guys racing around a bunch of cones in a parking lot. So they'll come hang out and watch it for a while. But yeah, I mean, anything we can do to kind of, I think, drive more people towards the sport is going to help it, especially people from the outside that want to watch it. So that's kind of the cool thing about your website. And as you were saying, you've got a lot of people that are reaching out to you to ask questions about autocross, maybe wanting to get into autocross, so on and so forth. But you've got a lot of resources. It looks like, blog posts that you've written. You've done some videos and things like that. I mean, what are you most proud about on your website? What stands out to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think some of my more proud things that I've been working on are the things that people don't tend to see. Like, I go to great lengths to make my things more accessible to everyone. So one of the things I'm very concerned about is search engine optimization. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. So whenever I write something or build something or do a video, I basically design it in a way so that Google can catalog it very effectively. And as a result, a lot of my things are ranking on the first page of Google, even sometimes the first result for various keywords. And that brings huge amounts of traffic to my website, which is awesome because I know that more people are getting involved in learning about how to be a better racing driver. And that's the whole point of the website, because like I said earlier, there isn't one. There isn't a website like this. I'm always, looking. One of the biggest obstacles I had initially was, just networking with other people in the industry. And I've been looking around like, oh my gosh, am I the only one doing this? Like, who do I talk to? Who do I reach out to?
Right.
So making everything accessible to everyone is really important to me. I am very proud. I'm probably most proud, and this is a good segue probably too. I'm most proud of probably the fitness article because I've put the most work into it, not only in the post, but over the past several years of just being fit and ready to crush it.
Yeah, so is the fitness thing a result of of being a stunt driver or your career in racing, or is it just something that happened alongside it and you tied the two together? Because obviously there's an importance of fitness in racing that I think a lot of people miss. So I'm curious to see what the actual beginning point was for you.
Right. Yeah. I've always been pretty fit. And fitness was a big part of my stunt life because, I wasn't only out there, driving stunt cars. Like I was out there doing, fight scenes and jumping off buildings and getting lit on fire or whatever the day brought, and to do those things effectively and to have that sort of, quote unquote Hollywood image, everyone wants a guy who looks fit to be on camera. It's just the way it is. That helped a lot too. And, not only, applied to racing, we can talk about, reaction times and mental acuity and, physical ability and physical endurance. Okay. But I think the most important thing about fitness and motorsport is your first impression capital. Like I don't watch NASCAR anymore. I think NASCAR is broken. I love every type of racing. And I think it's too bad that NASCAR has gone the way it has. But, I'll use two quick examples of two NASCAR guys because everyone knows them. Okay. Let's talk about Tony Stewart and Mark Martin real quick. Okay, Tony Stewart, he's kind of made it. He's let himself go. He's overweight. He's kind of slovenly. All right.
Oh yeah.
Mark Martin is in his late 50s. He might be in his early 60s now. He's not racing anymore. But the guy is more fit than I have ever been in my life. Okay. Last time I saw a good picture of him, he was 55, ripped, six-pack abs. The guy has probably more endurance than anyone. Okay. So if I know they're both famous now, but what if both of those guys walked up to me and said, "Hey, I'm interested in your sponsorship program." All right. Which one do you think has more credibility initially? It's obviously going to be Mark Martin because he takes care of himself. So I look at someone like Tony Stewart and say, well, this guy's not taking care of himself. Why would he take care of my brand? So as far as first impression capital goes, if you want to get somewhere in motorsport, and like I said earlier, I think everyone can if that's what they really want to do. Being physically fit is a huge, huge asset to you.
So when it comes to the fitness piece of it, I think, I am a fitness enthusiast, I guess. I don't work out for a purpose other than just for me and to be fit and to be healthy. And I've got some other goals. Anytime that I am working out, I've got a goal in mind, whether it's gaining weight or losing weight or, improving my cardio or whatever it is. I come into the gym with those thoughts in mind, but that's a mindset thing. I mean, that comes over time. And I think the issue with the gym or fitness or whatever for most people is, how do I start this? Because there's so much misinformation. There's a ton of misinformation, and you can walk into a place at the mall or at a strip mall, and you'll get misinformation from a guy that's in really good shape, because there's a lot of people that want to sell you products that you don't need or that actually aren't good for you. And so, I mean, how do you guide somebody and say, okay, you want to be a better race car driver, and therefore you want to go on this fitness journey? How do you start those people?
Yeah, that's an awesome point. And I would probably say, like me, like I'm a pretty good driver, I'm leading in the points series in this one other place or whatever, but I'm always still looking for someone who's an expert, and that's why Bill Brundage and I got together. He taught me a lot that day. The learning never ever stops. And the reason I reached out to him is because, to me, he's an expert. He's been winning pretty much everything in the region for years. Okay? He's the region expert. Okay, and it's kind of the same way with fitness. And you're right. There is probably more misinformation about fitness and nutrition on the internet than any other topic.
Yeah, it's awful. It's terrible. I mean, you could search one thing and get 6 different answers, and there's one right answer, but it's really hard to tell. What is that for someone that doesn't know, that hasn't studied it? I mean, it's almost impossible to sift through the crap.
And you're completely right. Yeah, I mean, you could search for 5 minutes, get 1,000 different answers, and then you're suddenly faced with information overload. And when that happens to people, they just tend to shut down and make no decisions. Okay, and that doesn't help them at all. So I would probably approach, especially if you're new, I would approach fitness the same way that I do with learning new race driving from an expert. Like, I'm a huge proponent of the Beachbody workouts. I like Sean T a lot. I've done pretty much everything he's ever put out, and that's what you need to do. You need to go to an expert who has gotten people results for years. If you're just getting started, highly recommend that you buy, and I'm not an affiliate for them, I just love their products. I would highly recommend that you buy T25. It's an awesome entry-level kind of endurance workout, and it comes complete with nutrition information. It's easy to follow. It makes sense, And if you want to start somewhere, I would recommend that, especially if you want to go into race driving. Stop lifting heavy weights. You don't need to do that. You're never going to use, your 1 rep max or whatever in race car driving. Try and get your cardio level up so you can push really hard on something for about an hour. I'm just comparing it to the Pirelli World Challenge. You get an hour-long race. That's a long time to be doing something physically demanding in a race car.
Yeah, absolutely. I was out in Chicago with some buddies of mine about 3 or 4 years ago, and there was this karting place. It was an indoor karting place that ran on propane. This place was super ghetto. But anyway, on Fridays, they're out of business now, which I'm not even surprised. But on Friday, you could come in, if you came in early in the day, you could pay $75 or $100 or whatever, and you could kart literally as much as you could stand. And so we got, like our local MB2, if we're going to do 3 runs, what does that cost?
It's on weeknights, it's, if you're the member, which we all are, it's 2 for 20.
2 for 20.
And they're 14 lap runs.
Okay, so we were doing I think we were doing more than 14 laps because there wasn't anybody there at Friday at 10 a.m. But, we did like 7, 8, 9 runs, and it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody else was just passing out. They're like, I'm absolutely done. I'm like, guys, this place is open for like another 3 or 4 hours. We got to keep going, right? I got to use all of this $100 that I've spent. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I have an appreciation for you kind of pointing out that aspect of motorsport that I think is overlooked, because I feel like even people that aren't well versed in motorsport or don't watch racing, even some people that do watch racing, they seem to lack to understand the physical component of it.
Well, that's always been like an argument, like on like ESPN and stuff too. They'll say, "Oh, motor racing's not a sport," but you put one of those guys in an endurance car, like a Le Mans car, and have them run for an hour, 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah, see how you feel.
Yeah, they'll tell you, "Oh, wait, yeah, that's a physical sport."
Oh, my neck gave out after 15 minutes.
You don't even need a full race car. Put them in Jabay's Lemons CRX and see how they make a stint. Just put them on a track for 3 hours and see how that goes for them.
Or even a day of autocross where you literally get 5 minutes of seat time. They'll still be sore.
Yeah, oh yeah, that can make you sore, absolutely. Especially, MB2.
Especially when you're chasing cones and stuff like that.
Absolutely, even
between runs.
Right.
Just MB2, that go-kart track. I mean, you take people out there that have never been out there, they get sore.
So. Yeah, because my leg, I got that really bad scar.
Yeah.
My leg will cramp up really bad just because, with go-karts, you're mashing your foot to the floor, which
right.
is, it's a little different. But at the same time, I'll cramp up even after 2 runs just because of all the damage inside my leg.
You got to stay hydrated, bro.
I cut 5 tendons.
Electrolytes, dude.
I cut 5 tendons off. Leave me alone.
This is the argument we get into way too often.
I completely agree with you guys on that. I mean, another real world example for me, is it hard to, to drive a BRZ all day at the autocross? Of course not. Okay. But here I am now. I have this neat opportunity to drive the shifter kart a week from now. There's no way you could get fit in a week. But because I'm, always ready to go, and that's important to me, I'm going to show up and hopefully crush it. The guy I'm working with said, you'll get more seat time than you can physically handle. And I hope to prove him wrong. That's one of my goals. So, yeah, and that's my mantra. Always be ready for anything that's coming your way.
Yeah, because what's a shifter kart pull? Like 1.5 G?
Oh, my gosh, dude. It's like 2.5 to 3 G.
Is it really?
Crazy.
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'll wear you out real quick if you're not used to that.
Exactly.
It's brutal.
Do we know anybody who has a shifter kart?
There's someone in the Iowa region that has a shifter kart.
Is his name Kyle?
Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin.
That's an actual shifter kart. The one that
but it's only like 2 speeds or something. There's something silly about it. It's not quite like shifter kart as you picture, as most people picture when you say that word.
I don't even know that much about
shifter karts. It's a smaller motor than I think most of them have, and it's
okay.
only a 2-speed transmission.
Maybe Matt can tell us about shifter karts. What's the they have CC regulations, they have gears. I mean, what's kind of the lowdown on them?
Yeah. Do you guys ever play around with like 125 2-stroke dirt bikes?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this actually one of the most popular shifter car classes is called Stock Moto, and they literally have built that class around the CR125 6-speed transmission and 125 2-stroke engine. It's very fast.
I can imagine.
Yeah, that's
we're
not
talking
a lot
about
of weight.
90 miles an hour plus. I watched a video the other day on YouTube. Some guy, 97 miles an hour on the back straight in a shifter cart. At 2.5 Gs. It's ridiculous,
crazy.
Dude. We were talking about putting a boost engine in a Formula 500 thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of it's basically a kart.
Same
I
idea.
almost bought a Formula 440, and I was not going to leave the Rotex that's in it because the chassis older than I am, and it's just not competitive. So it was like, oh, let's just build something stupid.
Busa swap it.
Put a 1200 cc Hayabusa motor in that makes 200 horsepower, and we'll just see what happens. And I never did it, and I think that's probably the better option. Frankly.
I think it's still going to happen. I think you just got to give it a few years. We'll find another one.
Oh, I know exactly where that one still is, and it's not moved. And my dad sees that guy probably once a month, and every time he goes, "Hey, is your son gonna come get that yet?" And my dad responds with, "Have you dropped your price at all?"
Didn't he want like $2,500 for it?
I think he was asking $2,000.
Yeah.
And the most recent tech inspection sticker on it was like $19.95. And you could turn the motor by hand, but it needed completely gone through.
There's one in Indianola too.
I mean, I was willing to give him $1,000 just because most of the time when you find one, they're in 4 states
New
over.
Jersey or something.
And so by the time I go get that and come back, the time invested, the money invested in going to get it and bringing it back, I'll pay the guy a bit of a premium, but $2,000 is a little steep.
I almost bought one. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I remember.
I almost bought that one in where was it? It may have actually been New Jersey. I was trying to figure out how to get it back. I contacted the company and said, "Hey, will you ship this back for me?" And they're like, "Yes, we will do it for $1,800." And I said, "No, you don't understand. That's what I'm paying for the cart or the Formula car or whatever you want to call it." It was like, "I'm not giving you $1,800." And then I tried to put it. I tried to put it in a pod. One of those pod things used for moving. And they're like, "What are you using this for?" I was like, moving boxes." Like, you sound really suspicious. I don't trust you. Apparently, you can't put a Formula car in a pod. They frown on that pretty heavily.
No fun.
So anyway, that shot, but it was like a really good deal on one. It was $2,000 and it worked. And the guy had been running it in solo, and obviously been getting FTD. But the weird thing about those is I don't like that CVT thing that's happening. Yeah,
that just the same RPM.
Well, and they do sound like snowmobiles because they are snowmobile engines, and there's a lot about that I don't. They're really, really annoying. Let's be frank. If you watch one do an autocross, it's really annoying. So then you're that guy, and then you get FTD, so you're just extremely annoying to everybody. So everybody's gonna hate you. So shifter cart might be a better option. So competitive shifter cart is probably not cheap. I would guess one that's up on tech and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, competitive is relative. At the local level, you could probably have a blast and even win with a $4,000 to $5,000 used cart. But you get into the regional level, divisional, you're probably talking 12, 13K. And there's not a lot of parts there. But if you want to go fast, you got to have the nice stuff. And again, that's why I like spec racing and why I'm interested in the stock moto class, because all that stuff is regulated. You're not allowed to get in and touch the engine transmission in the from like the CR 125 I was talking about. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is cool. You have to tell us about that. That sounds like a really interesting experience you got coming up.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'm over the moon about it. I can't wait for that Tuesday to come.
Excellent. So, tell us more about your car history. You said you had a Miata at one point. Now you're on the BRZ. Have you had any
other gems? Yeah,
or any terrible cars that you hated?
I've had a lot of cars. I've driven so many cars, you guys. I worked at we'll go back to my car history once. I was about to go on a tangent, but I stopped myself. Yeah, so my very first car was a 1988 Mustang 4-cylinder. Absolutely loved that car. It was fantastic. I never rolled the windows up. It was in and out of the windows just like Dukes of Hazzard.
Was it a 5-speed? Was it four-banger 5-speed?
2.3 liter 5-speed. Yeah.
The naturally aspirated one, or were you lucky enough to get an SVO?
No, I had the naturally aspirated one.
You just must have been ragging it, just revving it to the limit all the time, beating on.
I was actually. It's a really funny story. I'm always really careful on my stuff. I drive really cautiously on the road and everything because I like my cars. They're kind of my investments. And it was funny because I get all my craziness out on the track or doing stunts or whatever it is. So. When I was growing up, I had my first car, I had my driver's license. I was never a crazy driver. People would call my mom and say, "I got stuck behind your son going to work," and I was late to work. And that was my early driving career. It's totally anticlimactic for what I ended up doing.
Jeez.
Yeah. But so from there, I think I had an abysmal Mercury Sable station wagon. I like station wagons, but this one was just absolutely horrible. I had a 1978 Pontiac Grand Am. That was probably the most reliable thing I've had in a long time. I love that car. I had to part with it. It was a huge bummer.
That's quite a boat.
78 Grand Am.
Yeah.
Is that a two-door?
Yeah, two-door. Yeah, it was a gas crisis V8, right? And it sounded amazing because we had the right pipes on it. But it was the second worst horsepower to compression ratio engine in history. It was a pig.
They're huge too, aren't they? Like even for the two-door.
Yeah, I mean, the late 70s ones weren't too bad. The late 70s ones were kind of like your, popular early Monte Carlo, stock car racing type shape. So it was pretty cool. It was okay, So I had that, and I moved into a really special car, and this is the car that kind of launched me into performance driving. It was an 88 Mustang Cobra clone, and it was amazing. It looked like it was brand new off the lot. I paid $5,000 for it. I saved all year so I could buy it, and that was the car that I took to my private practice base every weekend, to get my stunt driving done. And I cut my first performance driving demo with that. And a few weeks later, that demo got me my first stunt driving gig for a pilot on the History Channel. So that car has a special place in my heart. I no longer have that one. I have no idea why I got rid of all these awesome cars. It's a huge bummer, but that was probably among the best. It had a really awesome motor. It was almost brand new motor when I got it. I think it was, what did they do? Was it a 306 when they bore a 302? Something like that.
Oh, 302 30 over is probably if you bore a 350... 30 over, it's a 360.
Yeah.
So it must have been
like a 310,
312, 308, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, something like that. It was awesome. The thing would barely idle. It was cammed so radically. It was amazing.
Perfect.
It was just exactly. That is the best way.
You're wasting my time if you swap a cam on a V8 and it doesn't idle. Or you don't have any vacuum. That's the other thing. That's how you know you got the right cam is when you have no vacuum.
Exactly. I like your style. That makes sense. I love it. So, and from there, just kind of a little bit slightly less interesting car history. I had a decommissioned P71 Police Interceptor. That was a good car, Toyota pickup truck, and I think more notably, I had briefly a 2014 Ford GT Mustang GT Track Pack, and that thing was awesome. I took that down to Pennsylvania, the same place I'm going this weekend. Cut my 2015 stunt driving demo there. That was a wicked car. I had Flowmaster Outlaws on it, right? And I ordered them, I got them, I opened the box, and I looked through them, and they're basically just empty. The thing was so loud, it was incredible. So
straight pipe. They're just selling a straight pipe.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I'd love to share those videos with you guys. Do you guys have show notes for your show? I can't remember.
Yeah, we do some show notes.
Yeah, we put some stuff together on our on our website. Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll send you the links to those, and you can stick them in the show notes if you want to.
That'd be good.
Demos. They're fun to watch. I actually have hair back then. Can you believe that?
So those stunt demos, is that like, are you like drifting around or what does that entail?
Yeah, basically, when you're in film, actors, they have their like a demo reel of all their best work. And it's the same thing for stunt guys. For me, it was going to the practice lot, filming, all my best stuff, all my complicated driving stuff, and compiling it into a really cool video and just passing it around. And those were some of the best days I've had, making those videos. Always a blast. Always a blast.
Who shoots that stuff then?
Whoever is around.
You just hand somebody a camera?
Here, you.
It's not hard to convince someone to come and hang out with you when you're doing that.
Yeah.
I suppose that's probably
easily
true.
Coerced into that for sure.
Exactly.
So do you just edit that together then? You just take whatever footage you get and try to make something kind of impressive looking and probably pretty short, right? 30 seconds or a minute or...
Yeah, I think I'm probably in like the 2 to 3 minute range usually.
Okay.
Yeah, I do all my editing, multimedia stuff. I do all the stuff for the website, the graphics, the videos. Yeah, I do all the stuff myself.
That's pretty cool. That's kind of a multi-talented thing that we've been forced to figure out how to do and not done very well. Like, we don't host our podcast. We don't host our website. We don't do any of that stuff. So that's very impressive because that stuff is hard. That takes some research. There's a learning curve to that, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And honestly, that's probably why there aren't more websites like mine, because there are a lot of drivers who are more talented than me. There are a lot of drivers who are that talented who would probably be great instructors, but there aren't a lot of people who are those great drivers, great instructors, and can handle the back end of a website. So I just happen to be lucky enough to be able to put that trifecta together so the site works incredibly well.
So I'll ask a question that we get asked. and I never know how to answer exactly. Why did you start a podcast?
Oh my gosh, this is the easiest question for me to answer. Okay, so when I had decided that I wanted to start my company, I had 84 cents in the bank. You know, it was awful. So the next job I got an actual 40-hour-a-week job driving a CarQuest parts delivery truck, and I did that specifically so that I could listen to business, entrepreneur, and online marketing podcasts. And I did that for quite a while. I learned everything I needed to know. I would go home at night, throw it in, to the website, learn something new the next day, go back, change things, throw it all together. It took a long time, but I think that was just a really great way for me to go. And once I got to the point where I had enough people on the site, I was like, hey, wait a minute, I need a podcast because I love them, and people love free, valuable information. So that's my quick little introduction into my podcast stardom.
I never know how to answer that question because people are like, why'd you start a podcast? I'm like, why didn't we start a podcast?
We were bored in January, and it just seemed like a good idea at the time.
I don't understand the question. Why wouldn't you have a podcast?
It was more of a, you've got the equipment. Let's just
see what happens. And it turned out to not be terrible, so we just kept doing it. And we're still doing it. So
yeah, it was funny for me. I actually had all this audio equipment sitting around collecting dust because I used to record, some original music and stuff like that. So it got to that point, and I was like, wait a minute, I already have everything I need. I've got the mixer, I've got the digital input box. I got this awesome microphone. I was like, I'll just plug it in, and here we go.
Yeah, that's really all it takes.
Yep.
It's not overly complicated. It doesn't have to be anyway. So you used to do music stuff too?
Yeah, a little bit, man. I've touched down pretty much.
He's your spirit animal.
He is like my spirit animal, dude.
True.
That's why I have all my stuff.
You're peas in a pod.
I know. I played guitar.
The fitness thing. He loves cars.
I claim to women in bars I still play guitar for the past 13, 14 years. But
they're sitting in your living room.
It looks like I play guitar.
Wall.
Yeah, I know. I just look at them now. They're pretty.
I've touched down in a lot of different areas before I finally convinced myself that it was okay to do what I love all the time, and from there it's just been a freight train. But yeah, I mean, I've done, I've worked as in plumbing and heating off and on. I was a volunteer firefighter, crew chief on a KC-135 for the U.S. Air Force. I mean, it's been here, there, everywhere in between. But I love where I am now, and I'm not going anywhere.
People, friends, family think that you're crazy for doing what you want to do?
Yeah, I mentioned my dad earlier. My dad goes to racing. He loves racing with me. I truly think he's probably just starting to come around after a year of me doing this and me talking about it. He's like, oh, this actually might be a good idea. And, all the rest of my friends and family are like, you're crazy, get a real job. So I'm excited to present them with something a little more interesting later on down the road that they can get behind.
I think that's probably the hardest part of starting your own business or doing your own venture, because I mean we faced some of that when we started the podcast too, where people are like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?"
Yeah, it took 10 or 15 episodes for even some of our closest friends to really grasp what was happening.
Like, you're spending your free time doing this? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
The number one question I still get asked: Do you get paid for that?
Do you get paid to do that?
No,
not yet.
Yeah, it's all about the time you put in up front, which I think you've acknowledged that on your website too, because you've got just tons and tons of material on there and blog posts and stuff. And why provide this stuff for free, or why put it on the website? Maybe not necessarily for free, but why have it all out there on the website? And it's you have to show value. You have to add value for people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You said the magic phrase was add value. The more you give away, the more money you'll make. It's so counterintuitive, but that's the only way to do it. You can't show up in an industry and say, hey, this is my thing, pay me money, because no one cares. You have no authority.
Right.
You have no
Who are
credibility.
you, sir?
I need you to stay away from the salesman for my day job, if that's because
they love giving
shit
away. No.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So yeah, what about future plans? I mean, what do you see yourself doing in a year or 2 years, or where do you want this to go? What do you envision?
This project is always in flux, but I am always evaluating and thinking pretty far ahead. And you know what? Let me use this opportunity I want to share something with you guys. I was really excited. We talked several weeks ago about me coming on the podcast and talking to you guys, and it's been a blast. I'm really glad to be here. It's really cool. And I really wanted to do something unique for your listeners, something interesting they could go download that only they could have or something. But, we kind of solidified this a couple days ago, and I just didn't have a chance to put something valuable enough together for you guys to give to your listeners. So I'm just going to take this opportunity. I want to share some with you guys. I'm going to break some news. It is extremely likely that by the end of the year, the RacersHQ brand is going to have a digital bi-weekly magazine come out, and I'm really excited about that. It's going to be full of interviews with professional race drivers, driving tips, what's going on in the industry, all kinds of really fun stuff. So I just want to share that with you and your followers first. That's the best I can do on such short notice.
That sounds really
guys.
cool. That'll be something we'll definitely keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that'll definitely be cool.
Good, I appreciate it.
Because I think that'll add value in the industry. I mean, there's a lot of paper publications. I mean, you can get like Grassroots Motorsports, you can get stuff like that. But I think you're in a space where who else is doing something like that?
Yeah, it's just like the concept of the website. It's really all about the driving. It's really all about learning to be a better driver. And there are a lot of motorsport, magazines and publications and even online stuff and podcasts. But this will be the only one that's just about driving. I want to interview pro drivers and say, hey, what's working for you? What would you tell someone who's still within the first year of their amateur racing career? And I think that'll be really valuable as well.
Yeah.
See, I look forward to that because, so I understand racing line and stuff like that, but when it comes to weight transfers and slip angles and all these fancy driving terms, it's real easy for me even to get lost. And I've been doing this for a little while, and so any place that I can find that will help try and get me to a point where I can understand those things and then apply them is good.
Yeah, exactly. And I get that a lot. And there's a video series on the website called the Chalkboard Sessions. And that was one of the first things I did when I built the website. And there is all kinds of stuff on there about yaw angles, slip angles, how two drivers can go through the same corner and have the same average corner speed, but one comes out of the corner faster, all that kind of stuff. So if you guys haven't been to the Chalkboard Sessions, or your listeners are kind of looking around for the same kind of things that you are to clarify that stuff, I've got great feedback from people about that. So that's a really cool resource for that. But I think the magazine is going to do the same thing. I'd like to put some of that into writing where people can just, consume it at their own pace. And, the magazine idea is right in my wheelhouse. I wrote for some very small, completely unmentionable automotive magazines in the past, and I love writing. I think it's going to be a really fun outlet for me. I really want to get other people on board. Eventually I'd like to get other writers involved and maybe even step back a little bit, in the future. So, and I want to come back to something you asked me earlier about what some of my long-term plans were. And one of them obviously is, I am going to build this business into a six-figure income. And I'm hoping to be within about 3 years of there. The internet is such an awesome platform to launch information and to gain followers and just add huge amounts of value to people's racing world. So ultimately, I want to. That's what I want to do. I want to be a businessman and keep the racing team alive as well.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, do you have a personal goal of yourself for your driving, where you would like to end up? I mean, like a Pirelli World Challenge, or is there any specific place you would hope to end up in someday?
Yeah, man. I mean, everything is so fluid. Everything is always changing for me all the time. But yeah, I have a lot of aspirations. I think the Pirelli World Challenge is probably the ultimate form of road racing right now in America. And I would love to get into, just like a TCA car, something that's technically a spec racer. I would love that. I would love to get my brand on the side of a Pirelli World Challenge car. That's really the ultimate goal as far as the racing goes. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would also love to do, the entirety of a pro solo national tour, hit all the events in one season. That would be awesome. So, and I mean, there's just so many facets you can get into. We could get into, coaching or consulting someday. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of opportunity for me as I'm moving forward with this.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I just wanted to say, I started looking at your website when we first started talking to you, and my first thought was, I love this website. I love what I'm learning, and I wish I would have known about it years ago, or I wish I could have had it years ago. Because when I first started really getting into autocross, I was trying to get the techniques down, and I couldn't really find any good websites that explained everything I was asking, or I'd search Google and kind of get answers. And I finally bought the Skip Barber driving school textbook because I'm not going to spend $3,000 to go to the school, but I could get the textbook. So I actually read the textbook cover to cover, and it's like reading a textbook. But then you get to your site, and it answers all the questions I have, all the answers the book has, but it makes sense. So right now, I'm diving into your website to this day, and I'm going to continue going into it all the time, and I'm actually going to continue learning from it.
I really appreciate that. That's the thing. Like, I learned a lot of the stuff that I know from Carroll Smith and his Tune to Win, Tune to, whatever his book series are. Amazing writer. Same with the Skip Barber book. There's so much information in there. But I think there are very few people now who actually enjoy the nose-to-page technique. I mean, to a lot of people, it's just, black ink on a white page, and it's so boring. So I'm glad you said that. That was one of the goals of the site, was to present that same great information in a way that's very easily consumable and relatable.
Yeah, you've absolutely done that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, when I first messaged you, one of the things I had mentioned was that you had managed to do something with your podcast that almost no one else has done, and that's get me to actually listen to it start to finish by yourself, because it's really hard to listen to a single person, but you've got so much energy, and the information you give out is very digestible, and it's very easy to listen to, and I look forward to it every week. So.
Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And like I said earlier, I'm so opinionated about the automotive world. I've driven well over 300 different model cars now, just having been, briefly in journalism. And, I worked at a Porsche Audi dealership. I've driven all the high-end stuff, the R8s, all this cool stuff. And quite honestly, up to this point in my life, my friends are so sick of hearing me talk about car stuff. So the podcast is an awesome outlet for me to just talk as much as I want. And, people are really getting into it, and I've gotten great reviews. It's perfect for what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling when people actually listen to your podcast. We were surprised when obviously you haven't started just recently. You've got quite a few episodes out. But when we started back at the beginning of the year, we're like, people are listening to this shit? Like, really? There's a dude in Indiana that listens to our podcast. Really?
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
We've never met before in our life.
Yeah.
It's just weird
But
stuff.
it's if you're entertaining or you have good information, or, in your case where you can sit there by yourself and capture an audience, I mean, it just adds value to people's worlds. If nothing else, it's entertainment, and you can appreciate this because you were, like you said, you were driving around in a parts vehicle. Some people they want to listen to a podcast when they're in their car. They want to listen to a podcast when they're cleaning their house or whatever. And if you've got something that, again, you can add value to their situation, you've got a viable product there. So it's interesting. Podcasting is interesting. It's this kind of media that's free. People don't pay for it, and people can listen to while they're doing other things, and it's just kind of a weird medium. But it's really interesting, and people enjoy it. So
I agree. It's fascinating. I wish I had discovered podcasting years ago.
That's how I feel too.
Things I've missed. Oh my gosh!
We should have been doing this for like 6 years. We'd be huge now. But no.
Yeah.
But no, it's working out well. We really can't complain. So
Yep.
It's cool. You guys got any other questions?
I think why don't you go ahead and just plug your stuff, let people know where they can find you, find your stuff, whatnot.
Yeah, your website,
social medias.
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate it. Again, the website is RacersHQ.com, and my best plug is the sponsorship program. I want to help you. I can't do that if you don't go and apply to it. And like I said, I don't know when this episode is coming out. I hope it's relatively soon so people will have a chance to do that.
Yeah, it'll be Sunday.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic. Yeah, that'll be really helpful. So, I'm also on Instagram. There's a lot of unique content that I put on there that doesn't end up anywhere else, and you can follow me there at Catch Matt Covert. And I think that's pretty much going to do it for me. I just want to help all you guys out, and for me to do that, you got to go to the site and apply at racershq.com/sponsorship.
Yeah, I've directed a couple of my friends that direction. I don't know if any of them have actually followed through with it, but I've sent a few people that I think would do well for you, and I think you would do well for them. I've sent them that direction. So
those Sioux Falls folks?
A couple of them, yeah.
So if you see any Sioux Falls, South Dakota applications, it's because I had them.
Yeah, and I'll back them.
I really appreciate that. I do specifically remember seeing one Sioux Falls application, at least one come across my inbox. So thank you very much. I appreciate you doing that for me.
Well, if it means anything, I'll back them on it.
So, appreciate it, Matt. Make sure to catch Matt on iTunes at RacersHQ. I think all your stuff is rebranded now, so they just got to search Racers HQ, and they're all set.
Yes, and incidentally, if you have followed the site for a while, any old link that's out there will still, you can just go ahead and use it. It'll forward you automatically to the right page on the new site.
Perfect.
Yep.
Are you on Google Play, Stitcher, any place like that? Or are you just on iTunes?
Yes, I'm on all of those places. All the big places where you can get your podcasts, I am probably there.
All right, perfect. Make sure all of you guys to go out and find it. So
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. A lot of really interesting information.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, guys. It's been a blast. I'm glad I was here.
All right. Make sure to catch us next week, guys. Thanks for listening in. Bye.